Okay, let's do some convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. Come April, we're going to get some tariffs, or so the orange guy says. Big tariffs that may affect prices on all kinds of things, including automobiles. I work at Ford. Our sponsorship comes from Oak Ridge Ford. So who the hell knows what happens in April? What I can tell you is over the next 10 days, before the end of March, we've got all kinds of great deals, low interest rates, amazing residuals. If you're thinking of getting into an F-150 or any kind of Ford automobile in the springtime, forget about April and May. Let's do it now. I'm going to help you out. We're here for your Leafs content. We're also here for your automobile buying pleasure as well. Norman, London, Mike in Buffalo. It is March 20th, 2025. Well, what do you know? After losing 5 of 6 in 2 really crucial games from my perspective, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that sentiment, the Leafs win 3 straight. Joseph Woll winning a couple, and our good friend Anthony Stolarz backstopping the Buds to a 4-3 victory at Madison Square Garden tonight. They're back at top first in the Atlantic Division, Mike. The others share the top spot with the Florida Panthers this evening. But after that tumultuous run where everybody was beginning to turn against the team, thinking that it's rearing its ugly head and not living up to the billing, are we kind of back on track? Good evening.
Good evening, Norm. Not turning against them. They were playing like crap, and I think people were recognizing that. And by the way, I think, maybe Mr. Carney will need one of those F-150s as he leaves Ottawa, and Mr. Polyev moves in, but just had to get that in. Let's just say this. You looked at the way that this team played, especially in what I think were big games against Florida and against Ottawa, and they were wanting in both games, and they needed to respond, and they got the victory over Calgary. Calgary is a borderline team. They could make the playoffs, and they dropped the hammer on them, and I think they were very fortunate in the game against Colorado where it was a tight game in the third period, and the only reason, I know that if I had $1 for every person who texted me and said, "Oh, you're going to be talking about Joseph Woll," of course I would talk about Joseph Woll because he's the only reason that they won that game. It was a lucky break that the Steven Lorenz goal that went off the referee who had fallen, and a great shot, but they were outplayed by Colorado. Colorado outchanced them. And just like Colorado outplayed them in the game in Colorado, the Leafs were leading 4-2 and then lost. I think it was 7-4. It was 1-1 in the third period, and Lorenz gets the goal, and I think it was directly contributable to Woll. And tonight, you have to thank John Tavares, who gets 2 goals, and this team played pretty well and held on for the victory. And now they've won 3 games in a row, and hopefully it's the start of something positive.
Hey, we've got about 30 people in the chat, growing every second. Like the content, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for being with us. It's not normal for us to do a show on Thursday evening, or it wasn't, but it will be going forward between now and whenever the Leafs bow out. Will it be early? Will it be late? We will be here for it. Dare I say, Mike, the win against Colorado, 2-1, getting some puck luck, figuring it out, eking it out, was a more quality victory than what the Leafs were able to demonstrate and come away with against the Flames.
It was a much needed victory. As I said, Colorado is they're a boatload of a team. Yeah. They adding Coyle, adding Brock Nelson, Neckish in the deal, or Natchez, in the deal with Rantanen. On top of McKinnon and Makar, that's a boatload of a team, and the Leafs were fortunate to get 2 points. And if you look, Colorado was pissed off because they opened up on Ottawa tonight and scored 5 goals, I think, in the first period. So, full marks to the Leafs. They need to win those games. They need to win them any way that they possibly can. And they got the 2 points, and now they've beaten 2 teams that they should beat in Calgary and the Rangers, and now they have to beat Nashville on Saturday night. And if they do that, we're down to 13 games left, and we basically have a 3-way tie between Florida, who beat Columbus tonight, the Leafs, and Tampa Bay, who's tied right now with Dallas. So, I mean, it's going to be a race down to the wire.
13 games to go. It'd be nice if the Leafs could put a division title on their portfolio for the 2024-2025 season. It does also have its advantages, finishing atop the division. Will it happen? Possibly. Mike, I got to ask you, why were we so pissed off with the Leafs losing 5 of 6, knowing as hockey fans and followers of this team, it's just all part of the ebbs and flows of the season, and that the Leafs had positioned themselves pretty well to be able to sustain a losing streak and giving themselves enough time to be able to bounce back with the remainder of the season to go, knowing that getting on a bit of a hot streak could still get them to where they wanted to achieve what did they wanted to achieve in the first place. Why are we so pissed off with that 5 of 6 skid, especially since before that they had won like 5-6 in a row, and now they've won 3 in a row? What was it about that particular time, those particular games, those opponents, and the way things happen that has kind of reinvigorated that sour taste in our mouths?
Well, I think it was not just the fact that they lost 5 of 6. It's the way that they lost. Mm-hmm. It's the fact that, especially in those 2 games against Florida and Ottawa, they only scored 2 goals. That the core group was not showing up. You weren't getting great goaltending out of either one, out of either Wall or Stolarz. I mean, it was the way they lost, and that's the concern. It's especially right after the deadline. You add a defenseman in Carlo, you add a forward in Scott Lawton. You paid a fairly heavy price for both of them, and right after that, you're playing subpar hockey, and that's just not acceptable. Now, there's always a little settling in sort of situation with those players, and I saw some comments in the chat, and I just have to mention this. It's like, Brandon Carlo was acquired to be the right shot defenseman partner that Morgan Rielly has not had forever, a steady partner. And he's become that. It was a little settling in against Colorado. It's not going to be great every night, but he's a steady, big right shot defenseman, physical, and the perfect complement to Rielly, and it allows Rielly to take more offensive chances, and he stays back and plays that responsible partner. And then you have McCabe with Tanev, and now the bottom pairing with it seems to be settled with Benoit and Oliver Ekman-Larsson. So the acquisition of Carlos solidified the pairings, and as long as they all stay healthy, I think those will be the 3 pairings going into the playoffs. Scott Lawton thing, and I understand that it takes time for players to settle in, but he starts the first couple games as a 3rd line center, then he moves to 4th line center, and then today he's playing 4th line wing. This is not the guy that they thought that they were getting. He's not playing very well.
Did you not warn us about Scott Lawton?
Yes. Yeah. No. The people don't understand. I had a little bit of insight into Scott Lawton because Ross and Anthony, who I do the Off the Post podcast with, they cover the Flyers. I'm not saying Scott Lawton's not a decent player. He's effective. Right. He wasn't worth a 1st round pick. Now, the reason that they ended up paying a 1st round pick is because the market demanded it. The Brock Nelson price, the Yanni Gourde price. At that point, they were going to have to trade a 1st round pick to get him. They were lucky that they got Philadelphia to retain 50%, and it didn't cost them Minton or Cowan. It cost them Grabyankin instead. But right now, and not to say that he's not going to be 3rd line center going into the playoffs, but right now he's had, I think, a difficult situation settling in. He's not made much of an impact. I don't think he has a point.
What were you expecting from him?
Physicality, more tenacity, and somebody who can play center. And now all of a sudden, David Kampf comes back in the lineup, and he's playing 4th line center, and Lawton is playing 4th line wing. That is not what they traded for.
This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. About a week and a half to go in March. Great residuals, great opportunities to get yourself into a new Ford, an F-150, an Escape, an Explorer. Now's the time. With April coming, tariffs are most likely to follow. Prices are going to go up. We're going to have to batten down the hatches in the springtime. But right as about now, I'm going to be able to help you out. All you got to do is reach out to me at Norman Oak Ridge Ford, and I put these plugs in because Oak Ridge Ford is the sponsor of our podcast. You know, Scott Laughton leaves a lot to be desired as of now. He was brought in to be a support player. If he scores an overtime winner in the first round of the playoffs, all will be forgotten, Mike. And you know, in the playoffs, as long as you're in the mix, you could have the game on your stick. And that's the thing about the way these guys kind of shake out, man. They've been down this road before and they know what they have to accomplish. Wanted to go on about the goaltending a little bit here. Stolarz had a nice game tonight. Wall helping to kind of right the ship a little bit at the other end of the ice of a dominant win for his team, and then really had to hold things together. 39, 38, 40 shots or something like that from the Avalanche, but still pulled out the dub. Stolarz comes in this evening. In terms of what happens against the Predators on Saturday, you know, is it 2-2, or, you know, or if Mike Augello or Craig Berube is channeling his best Mike Augello, is he going back to Wall and from now until the end of the season giving Wall the opportunity to get most of the work leading into what should be a Joseph Wall starting game one of the playoffs?
If it's me against Nashville, I'm going back to Wall. You had to play both goaltenders in back-to-back games. I think it was a test to give Wall the game against the more difficult team, which was Colorado. He had come into that game winning 2 games in a row, had played back to I played the game against Calgary. I think deserved to get the start, and 38 saves, and I think he was, if he wasn't first star in that game in the arena, then I don't understand who the star who was doing the stars for that night, because he deserved to be the first star. You had to go with Stolarz, and I thought Stolarz played fine. I think he had a little bit of trouble with rebound control. The puck was bouncing on him. He made some good saves, but he also I don't think his performance against the Rangers equaled Wall's performance against Colorado. If I'm Berube, I'm going back to Wall against Nashville for one simple reason. He's the hotter of the 2 goalies, and you want to see him, if he takes the ball and runs with it. You know, he's won 3 in a row. What if he wins 4? What if he wins 5? Then you have to start thinking that's the guy you go to. And I've said this all year, Norm. I've said the main focus of this team, one of the main focuses of this team this year, is to find out whether Joseph Wall is the number 1 goalie or not. If you go to Anthony Stolarz in the playoffs and he's the main guy and they lose in the first round, then what is the question that needs to be answered next year? Is Joseph Wall the number 1? You need to find that out this year. Right. And if he loses in the first round and he doesn't play well and he doesn't take the ball, then you need a number 1 goaltender, because then neither one is a number 1.
I don't think Anthony Stolarz is enough of a superior, if at all, to get the nod over Joseph Wall. We know what Anthony Stolarz is, don't we? We don't really know what Joseph Wall's capabilities are. We've seen glimpses of it. You know, the 1A to the 1B, I think we need to start establishing that now, Mike, instead of just looking, at a goaltending pattern up to game 82 and then have it be the $1 million question that Craig Berube is going to answer in the last second. Who's going to be your game 1 starter? I think we should get a sense of that well before the playoffs commence.
Well, you know who Anthony Stolarz is. I know who Anthony Stolarz is. But the question is, does Craig Berube? And from what I learned through people who know him from his days as the Flyers coach, and then later as the St. Louis coach, he marries himself to 1 goaltender, and then basically that's it. And sometimes there's no logic in it. I think when he was in Philadelphia, he did not like Steve Mason, who was the better of the 2 goalies. He went with, I think it was Ray Emery, the late Ray Emery. Now in St. Louis, he was forced to go to Binnington because Binnington was the better of the. I think Allen was the goalie early on, and then they went to Binnington in that second half of the season when they made their mad dash to the playoffs and then won a Stanley Cup. So in that instance, that makes a lot of sense because you had no other choice. In this instance, you have two goalies, one who I think what he is, but they're hoping to get number one goalie performance out of. And that's just not reality because he's not a number one goaltender. I'm not saying he's a bad goalie. I'm just saying I don't think he can take you to the promised land. And his problem is durability. You don't want to go to him, and then all of a sudden in Game 3 of the first round, he gets hurt, and then you have to go to Joseph Woll with no other option. I think you go to Woll. And Wall's the guy that you go into the playoffs with, and you find out what he is. And if he's a winner, and if he's the guy who's the go-to guy, then you'll find out.
It wasn't too long ago we conducted a poll, youtube.com/the Leafs Convo /community/posts, and we asked, who is your game one starter as of right now? And it was during a time that Anthony Stolarz was absolutely red hot. Mm-hmm. So most people chose Anthony Stolarz, and for good reason at the time. And Mike, when I presented you with the results of that poll, and it was, again, extremely favorable for Stolarz, 118 votes. Mm-hmm. Right now, who's your game one starter? And this is 2 weeks ago. 91% said Stolarz, 9% over Woll. And when I presented you with the results, you said conduct that poll again later when shit starts hitting the fan. So maybe I'll ask the question again in the community portion of the YouTube channel to see how many OGs and converts and people who are just frequenting the channel for shits and giggles have a change of heart. By the way, I'm getting chirped about the hat. Guys, that's not a panther. That's a werewolf. This is my men's league baseball hat. That's not a panther. Okay, and it kind of goes with the Leafs Convo hoodie that we made, I think, circa 2022. Mike, what else do you want to talk about before we wrap this thing up? This is a sneak show for Oak Ridge Ford, quick and dirty, and we're setting the stage for the Panthers Leafs in Nashville on Saturday night, followed by the legendary, the one and only Sunday Spectacular right here on the YouTube channel. Last word to you, Mike.
Just worth mentioning because I think you're going to see this more often over the next couple of years since the Leafs have traded a significant amount of draft capital. They signed another NCAA college free agent today, John Prokop, to a one-year deal. I didn't know much about him, but big defenseman, 6'3", I think 190 pounds, plays for Union College. Has been a pretty decent offensive defenseman for them for the last 3 years. Again, it's a one-year deal starting next year. Again, with these NCAA free agents, it's a free swing. It's a contract. You're taking a look at the guy. You're seeing what he is. He's 23 years old. He went undrafted. He's a big kid. Seems to have some offensive talent. They're going to see how he plays at the American Hockey League level. And if he pans out, then maybe he earns a contract extension, just like Jacob Quillen, who they signed last year, who's playing pretty decently with the Marlies. They're going to need to do more of these moves because they don't have first round picks. They're going to have to, and it's the attraction of playing in Toronto, the attraction of playing maybe someday down the line with Austin Matthews that is a magnet for some of these players. So you're going to see more of these moves.
Memories of Tyler Bozak.
Yeah.
He worked out well.
He worked out pretty well. He did.
Anyone else come to mind that was decent? Was Jimmy? The Leafs were in on the Jimmy Vesey sweepstakes, were they not?
Yeah, they were. If you're talking about going KHL, because those are also free agents, not NCAA free. Right. Ilya Mikheyev was a success. It was only when they said to start paying him and he hit the jackpot in Vancouver did it. It it was not worthy of spending big money, and they ended up trading him someplace else. So yeah, Boria Valis, the other one in the chat, who they signed a couple days ago. There's a kid, big kid, playing. I think it's Prince George in the WHL. I mean, notice one common thread here, guys. Every player that they're signing is 6'2", 6'3". You're not going to get any more midgets. They're not going to, they're not going to be signing 5'9", 160-pound players. Brad Treliving likes his players big, maybe not tough, but big and rangy, and that's all he's trading for are guys that are big and rangy.
Gregory Seaborn wasn't Nye's NCAA. He was a second-round pick, wasn't he?
Second-round pick. That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's getting harder to differentiate between the two. I mean, you can make your pick, and there's a lot of pomp and circumstance around those picks, but it's signing the diamonds in the rough and the players who are unheralded that really causes organizations to have to fatten up bonuses for scouts and management, right? Because when they hit, it's found money, right? And you said, Mike, a free swing. What are you working on right now, Mr. Augello?
Well, for the hockey news, it'll be more Buffalo Sabres stuff, but unfortunately, for the Leafs, more to come with the new website. I'll fill you in when we're getting closer to our launch, but getting really sort of keyed up for the playoffs. It's going to be an interesting ride. Hopefully, it won't be a short one.
Jeremy Pridham, don't think Mike Johnson worked out.
No, he was a pretty decent player. I mean, hey, he's a few seasons. Remember, he was on the second line in that '99 team that made it to the conference final. So, but that was sort of like a different era. I mean, that's 25 years ago. But
yeah, well, he can go visit Matt Sundin on Mount Olympus.
Yeah.
How do you think the rest of the season goes? Do you think,
Yes.
13 games, it's 7-6, or do you think the Leafs get hot and win the division?
Gregory in the chat, Bobby McMahon was a college free agent out of Colgate. That has turned out to be a phenomenal signing. And then, wisely, Treliving signed him to a 2-year extension, and he scores a goal tonight, and he's probably going to score 20. He's going to cost them a lot more after next year. They got a year left in that contract, and then he's probably going to be a $4.5 million player. So maybe they get him signed. I would like to see them sign him because, again, big body player, plays with physicality. He's got some skill, and now he's playing up on the line with Tavares and Nylander. So he's playing pretty well.
Hey, don't blame him for making his money. He's a smart guy at Colgate University. Is that not Ivy League?
I believe so.
Yeah. I asked you a question. Do you think the Leafs just kind of go even Steven the rest of the way, or do they get hot and win the division?
I mean, it's tough to say. I mean, there are some easy games on the schedule, like Buffalo late in the campaign, and if the division's on the line when they're going to Buffalo, they'll end up losing because they're playing Buffalo.
Yeah, well, you're just so damn jaded, Mr. Augello. It's the quality of the wins, Mike. It's not the quantity. We know that. Just ask teams that win the President's Trophy. Right? It's the quality, right? And I asked you the question as to why you think people were so pissed off. We know big games that mean more than just the W, the Leafs did not show up in, or did not show up to a degree that earned them the victory that we felt that was needed, not only to get the statistical victory, but the moral victory. It's a bit of a patchwork now, rebuilding some of the momentum that was lost. It's great. But you know what? Put up or shut up against the teams that you really have to beat, and that's divisional rivals, and of course the provincial rivals. And there's going to be more of that to come between now and Game 82. We'll be here for it. The Sunday Spectacular, a few days away, guys. Enjoy the Leafs and Predators from Nashville to come. Like the content, subscribe to the channel. Watch out for our Convo shorts on YouTube as well as on TikTok. For Mr. Augello in Buffalo, New York, I'm Mr. James in London, Ontario. The Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford is out.